Welcome back to Conversations with Chris
and Crystal. And today we're talking about our concern with teachers affecting children's self-esteem. I realize everybody's human, they make mistakes, I get that. And I'm 12 years older than my twin brothers, and they asked me when they went into high school, they said, do you have any words of wisdom for us as we go into high school? And I said, well, don't trust any of the teachers because they're only human. They're all going to tell you their class is the most important. And I know one of the boys, I know that he was like me, he was very much a perfectionist and wanted to do everything right. And that's draining when you're going in school, when you're dealing with teachers who say these things to you. And then some of the other things that you run into. And I think you had something that you had run into early on in your life.
Well, in fourth grade, we had this thing where you could take a test. They were trying to place us in a certain, which vocabulary group we would be in or whatever. So you take these tests and you could miss up to 2 questions and still advance to the next level. Well, I kept advancing and advancing and advancing, and the teacher wouldn't let me take the last test because she said, I'm afraid you'll pass it, and then what would you do during that time period that we're all doing vocabulary? I suggested that I could read a book, but she didn't go for that idea. So that bothers me because it's like, why wouldn't you let me see, even if you made me stay at that level, let me see if I could pass it, because I would have liked to have known.
Yeah. No, that's a really good example too of it doesn't fit my curriculum, so therefore you don't fit my curriculum, and in fact, that makes it really hard.
And in fact, talking to the principal at the school I work at now, she said that there's a boy in 6th grade who is doing 7th grade math right now, and he's almost done with it, and she said then he'll move on to the 8th grade math. And then he asked her one time, well, when I finish 8th grade math, what if I finish that before the year's out? What would I do then? She said, well, we have this computer program that we'll put you on. So, I mean, now she's got things in place for this kid to advance to.
Yeah.
And I think that's great, and I feel cheated that I didn't have that.
Yeah, because it really, it lowers your self-esteem to think that there's something wrong with you. That's something, again, we have to forgive and move on, and it's not that we haven't forgiven these people, this is a reality that exists out there.
Yeah, and that's what we were getting into, is we'd like to know why.
Yeah. Do you have any of those teachers out there that you want to ask why? Why were they the way they were?
Why did they do the things they did?
Right. What made them decide those things? And I've got a couple of them that are no longer with us, so I can't ask them. But I do have quite a few that are still around, and I'd like to know why they thought it was okay to treat us the way they did at the time.
Pigeonhole kids into certain things just because they feel like
it's convenient for them. Yes. It was convenient for them. And so that would be our question for today. Do any of you have a teacher that you would like to ask why, and what happened that brings about that question? And please do forgive them, because it'll just drag around with you and drag you down. But the reality is, it's a really good question. Why do teachers feel that they can say some of the dumbest things to kids that hurt their feelings, that hurt them as people, that hurt their self-esteem? I know the teachers want to blame it on the parents want to blame it on the teachers, so nobody wants to take responsibility, essentially.
Well, and it's like you said, teachers are human. Everybody can have a bad day.
Yeah, they can make mistakes, sure.
But I mean, if you do something or say something hurtful to a kid, there's always tomorrow when you can say, I'm sorry I said that, I was having a bad day.
Yeah.
It's not you.
Right. And understand that. I guess maybe some people haven't been that sensitive in their life, so they don't, maybe teachers are not sensitive.
We're too sensitive.
You are sensitive. We are both very sensitive, so it would be something, and this is why we pick up on these things, and they keep going with us. In the years that I've taught acting, or I've taught Sunday school, or anything like that, my greatest concern has always been that those kids feel really good about themselves when they're in or out of that class. In fact, I think a lot of the other teachers around who were, teaching the manual and doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing. And I mean, I did that too, but I also made sure that their self-esteem was addressed and that they felt good about themselves. There were times when we just sat and chatted and had conversations, and they felt they would talk to me in third person. They're first graders. They'd talk to me in third person, like, "Well, my friend," you know, and I was able to answer questions for them and help them with those issues, and that was important to me, that they had that kind of connection, and it made it a really great class because of that.
Well, yeah, and even at pardon me, at Crystal's suggestion, I had this box that I called the brain dump, where they could put in notes. They could say, you can share this with the class or not. I told them, if you don't put anything on it, I'm not sharing it with the class. If you write share with the class, I'll share it. But so I got this little box that had a little lock on it. It was one of those cheap little diary locks, you know. So not a big deal. But the point was to keep privacy. And I had 2 of my 8th grade girls who were in honors pick the lock on it. I was disgusted. It took me 2 days to get over that, because I just couldn't believe that they did that. And so I had to take the box home. And I had one 7th grader ask me, "What happened to the box?" I said, "Well, this is what happened."
Yeah.
So we're going to have a conversation about character,
Right.
and respecting people's property.
Right, absolutely. And speaking of a character, I have a list of teachers that I think maybe because I was so sensitive, it just kind of came up more often for me. I know we've talked about the cheerleading aspect and the facilitator that I had. That it was an amazing thing to go and try out for cheerleading and get on the squad. I mean, I was a nobody, never went to a game, didn't know a school song, but got into cheerleading and really enjoyed it, really did a good job on it, really worked hard at it. I practiced 2 hours every day, even after I was on the squad. But the first day that we met together, there were 18 of us, and we were in our facilitator's room. She was a home ec teacher, of all things to have for a facilitator for cheerleading was obscene, because we had people get injured because of that. We didn't have somebody that could help us with tumbling and things
Someone
like
who
that.
knew what they were doing. in other words.
Hello. Yes. So anyway, her first pep talk to us was, and I quote, "You are an elite group, therefore you only associate with certain people," end quote. And out of 18 girls, I'm the only one laughing hysterically and falling out of my melamine chair that's very slippery. And I'm on all fours on the floor. And I look up, and I am the only one laughing in the room. And I said, "You can't be serious." And I think she had it out for me ever since then. I think she lived vicariously through us.
Yeah.
And, our sports teams were amazing, because those boys did not have time for anybody. Their coaches were very strict about the fact that you are going to focus on the game. And that's exactly what they did. Out of 18 girls, I think there were only 1, 2, 3 of us, maybe, or 3 of them who dated anybody, because probably for that reason, because you couldn't, these guys wouldn't date you.
They didn't have time.
They didn't have time. They shouldn't. The coaches didn't want them to take the time or to be that way. And for me as a Christian, it was just wrong on so many levels that you would not include everyone. And so I think, and it was funny because when I found out I was a cheerleader, it was the end of the sophomore year, and then beginning of junior year, I was on the squad. And at the end of the sophomore year, I had signed up to be, well, these are the people that were not included. Okay. So no theater people, that was so not happening. And the marching band, the marching band, we had this 399 piece award-winning marching band. You couldn't be friends with them. And I think that was it, because one of the cheerleaders was in the orchestra, so they did not include that. So it was, but what I had done is I had signed up to be the assistant to the director of the marching band. Mm-hmm. So I was making a lot of points with that one. But yeah, I just couldn't live with myself knowing that we were going to not include other people in our world because we were who we were.
And you never told me, did you follow that, or did you stay friends with the people?
I tried to stay friends. I did end up getting ostracized from my clique of girls because I was one of those. And I mean, we wore the uniform 3 times a week, and I think that was enough to separate us from the others, if you will. And that, I just didn't see that as an issue, but my group of girlfriends did, and they sent a messenger one day to let me know that I was no longer part of their group.
Sounds like they had some issues.
I think
too.
so. I think so. And it amazes me. But again, I was so sensitive. So as I said, those group of girls ostracized me, and I have since gone back in the last 5 years or so and reached out to at least one of them. And she was so excited to hear from me, and she was like, "Oh, you've got to connect with all these other gals too." And I thought, does anybody remember what happened?
Mm-hmm.
That
It's that selective memory with, oh, why did
That's
we ever
amazing.
stop hanging out together? It's
I
like,
know,
because
I know.
you.
Yeah, you. Oh my gosh. I feel badly for the gal that they sent, to represent the group of like a dozen girls. And and I haven't heard from her either. I think I called her mother once quite a few years back, and she was so excited to hear from me, and I
I've
I don't know.
had an issue recently with a couple 7th graders. One of them wrote a note, asked me to look at it and see if it was okay to give to the other girl, expressing her feelings about how she wanted to stay friends, but let's not do the drama. And then the other girl that she sent it to showed me a note that she was going to give back to her. She had no idea that I reviewed her note. And her note was really kind of mean. And it was like, no, we're not friends and blah, blah, blah. I said, do you really think that, it sounds to me like she's reaching out and afraid that you're not going to want to be friends. And she said, well, I talked to this teacher and she's about it. And she said she thinks she's starting the drama again with that note. And I was like, how could a teacher say that?
Yeah, yeah. See, there you go with that teacher thing
'Cause to
again.
me,
What are they thinking?
I said, well, it's up to you, but I think she wants to stay friends with you. She's just afraid that you're going to do this stuff. And I haven't heard what they did. But that's the whole thing with these kids. It's like, why ostracize other kids?
Right.
What is
right.
the point?
But they do. It's hormones. I think hormones are so confusing.
I'm sorry, I digressed.
No,
So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, let's make a note that that's a good topic for another one.
Hormones?
Yeah. No. Yet again, another good topic. No, I think about relationships and growing up through them, and I have some good stories about turning points in my life where my life did a 180, and I found out, wow, there's other people out there. I don't have to be dependent on these people. I think that's important. So anyway, the cheerleading thing, of course, I got kicked off the squad in my senior year, and because this gal just, and our favorite saying comes from this.
Yes.
My parents did come into the school and ask why
we
I
did
didn't. Yeah, we did it.
Yeah, we did this whole story.
But we're going to do it again. Not that part of the story. We're just going to bring up because we want to use that more often, which is,
you
didn't bake enough cookies. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to use that for everything now. When your life is in the pits, you just didn't bake enough cookies. I can tell you that right now. That was pretty funny. But aside from being funny, why could you not be a little more adult, a little more responsible, even just a little? I'm not asking for a lot, I don't think.
Especially when it's an adult.
I know. She wasn't, like in her 20s either. And I had some teachers that were in their 20s, and she was not.
That's one thing I would never do is tell a kid, oh, you shall not associate with these other kids over here.
Oh, my gosh.
To me, it's like you should associate with all the other kids.
Yeah, you really, as a representative of the school, we should have been associating with everybody. We should have been out there.
In fact, one of my
picketing.
One of my problem children who's, not doing well because he chooses not to, I said, what are you going to do when someday this kid who's really, really smart, I said, he's going to be like in charge of NASA and he'll come into your Chick-fil-A and you'll be serving him food. Because Chick-fil-A is this other kid's favorite food. And it's like, but you need to apply yourself. You need to go to school and do your work, and then you can get a better job than just standing behind the counter at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least you're, and we're going to talk about that too, about how college, nobody really promoted college for us, you eventually went, bless your heart. So the other teacher that I would like to ask why was our orchestra teacher.
He was a piece of work.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was in a different school between 7th, and then in our school system, we had 7th, 8th, and 9th was junior high, 10, 11, 12 was senior high. And so in 7th grade, I had a teacher, and then in this other school, and then I moved to a different school, which most of the teachers in that school didn't like me because the first school was progressive and a little different, and they didn't like that. They liked everything to be very strict. And so I ended up with this orchestra teacher there, and apparently these kids in this school had in 7th grade, they had music theory. I had not, because this one didn't do that. They did it in 8th grade. So now I missed music theory, and I was playing violin, and I have this orchestra teacher, and I remember the other kids. I mean, we had like 14 first violins, and I remember the kids looking at me and understanding that I didn't know music theory. And he would play things on the piano, and then he would say, okay, Crystal, what is that chord, or what, and I had no clue. I did not know what that was. And sometimes I could guess, because I started to get good at guessing, because he always called on me first. And I think kids were starting to pick up on the fact that, he was doing it on purpose, just to be mean, because he also wasn't teaching it. He was just saying, what is it? And so I was dealing with that. And then I was sitting in either the last chair or the first, the second chair to the last chair, right there, 13 or 14. And I was sitting next to a young woman that had the misfortune of having seizures from time to time. And so it was very nerve-wracking to sit next to her, because you never knew when her violin would fall, and she would just zone out and be gone, and or she'd throw it. I wasn't really sure what to expect. So it was very nerve-wracking for 8th and 9th grade to deal with that. And I went to him, because I took privately. I went and took private lessons, and then I went to him and I said, I'd like to challenge to move up. And he said, oh, you expect me to put somebody good next to her? I don't know if he was trying to save the world from my violin playing. I mean, it's possible. I don't know. I had been playing since 4th grade. So at this point, it was 4th, 5th, 6th, 4 years of playing. And no, he absolutely wasn't going to have anything to do with it. I had my great-grandfather's concert violin restored. My mother had it restored. And in the wintertime especially, it could get really cold and it was very hard to tune. So I brought it to him one time to help me. And he said, well, this violin is never going to tune right. It has a crack in it. So, of course, I go home and I said to my mom, well, I have this crack in the violin. And so she called him and she said, well, where can we get that fixed? What can we do about that? And he said, I never said that. I know, it's just all this undermining, all of this, and it makes you kind of wonder about his character.
What character?
Okay. I gotta leave it there. Yeah. Why would you want to be manipulative? Why would you want, it's a curse. It's witchcraft. It's evil. It's pure evil.
Well, clearly he was a narcissist.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about those.
Because, yes.
Right. You're right.
Because the world revolved around him. You clearly did not worship him enough.
Oh, and you know what? I didn't.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't.
And why would you, the way he acted?
I know. Why would you want to be with that person? And, I mean, to this day, I still see him on friends of mine who were in orchestra on their...
He's still living?
I know, he is.
That goes to prove that old saying that only the good die young.
Yeah. And so anyway, they've got him on their Facebooks and things like that, and I'm thinking, oh, you guys, who is this person?
You should be like, say your friends are like Jane and Anne. Hi, Jane. Hi, Anne. Hi, Satan.
It's just evil. It was just evil, and it was, I forgive him, but I would really like to know why. I would like to know what possible thought process goes through your mind that that's okay to tell a child something like that. And I did not continue in orchestra in senior high because he went to the senior high as well, so I couldn't get away from him.
Well, and you know what would happen if you did actually ask him that? deny, deny, deny.
Oh yeah. No, I know a lot of the teachers, when you go and ask them, they're going to say, well, I don't know.
Or I don't remember that.
I don't remember that. Yeah.
I didn't do that.
And you know, it really doesn't matter. They were a wicked, evil, horrible person. And now I know one of them that gave me so much grief. You know, I know that for a fact that now he's a Christian, and I'm good with that. I'm great. I think that's just great.
Yeah.
But what were we thinking in the past? Where was your brain going with some of this input?
All right, so we're running out of time here for this
We are.
one. So this is part 1 of our discussion on teachers who affected our self-esteem, and you know, be sure to chime in with your stories too. We'd love to hear them.
Yep.
And how you dealt with them. And we will be back with part 2.
Absolutely. So remember,
Take care of yourself.
take care of yourself because nobody else will.
See you next time.
Bye.